Om-Jnana-Timanasya-Tinanasya Sakshamilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sanyavadi Paskachai Desatarine. Today we are reading from the first canto, chapter 6, Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva, text 23 and 24. But before we read the verse, I will also read the previous verses. This is the experience of Narada in his previous life, where he felt suddenly great ecstasy but had an experience of the Lord, but then he disappeared. And then the Lord speaks to him. And I will read all these verses, what the Lord said. And the text 23, today is in the middle of it. So then we get an idea of the entire message that the Lord gave through Narada. So it starts with the previous verse. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and that is just to increase your desire for me, because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be free from all material desires. Text 23. By service to the Absolute Truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time, even at the time of creation, as well as at the time of annihilation. Your remembrance will continue by my mercy. So, this is the entire message of the Lord. Now text 23. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiyayat. Nastabesya Bhatresya Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Sat Sevaya Dirgayapi. Chata Maidrita Mati. Itva Vatyam Imam Lokam. Yantamachanatam Masi. Word for word translation. Sat Sevaya. By service of the Absolute Truth. Adirgaya for some days. Api even. Chata having attained. Mayi unto me. Trita firm. Mati intelligence. Itva having given up. Advayam deplorable. Imam this. Lokam material worlds. Ganta going on. Machanatam my associates. Asi become. The translation. By service to the Absolute Truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. Purport. Serving the Absolute Truth means rendering service unto the Absolute Personality of Godhead under direction of the bona fide spiritual master, who is a transparent via medium between the Lord and the neophyte devotee. The neophyte devotee has no ability to approach the Absolute Personality of Godhead by the strength of his present imperfect material senses, and therefore under the direction of the spiritual master he is trained in transcendental service of the Lord. And by such training ever for some days, the neophyte devotee gets intelligence in such transcendental service, which lead him ultimately to get free from the perpetual inhabitation in the material worlds, and to be promoted to the transcendental world to become one of the liberated associates of the Lord in the kingdom of God. Tasmai Sigurveni Chichitayamanopistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svamrupakadamyam Dadati Svapadam Vikam Vandeham Shigo Shiyuda Padakamam Shigo Vaishnavamsa Shiyupam Jagajatam Sakan Raganatam Tam Tam Sativam Satvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakalita Shivshakam Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwe Vishabhanu Sutadeve Pranamama Haripriya Pankha Kalpta Visha Kripa Sambhavisha Patram Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavin Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachani Desatani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So the verse again. By service of the Absolute Truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, it goes to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present and deplorable material worlds. So due to serving the Lord, one attains transcendental intelligence. What Krishna explains that in the Gita, verses 10:10 and 10:11. Jesham satatayuknam vatstam pradipavkam dadami buddhyam yogam tam yenamam priyantite. If one serves me with a little love, Krishna says, I will give you this Buddha Yoga, Dadami Buddha Yoga, this transcendental intelligence from within the heart. And how does he do that? 10:11. Desham evan kampartamam magyan chamtamana satyamatma bhavasto yanatipanadash pashvatam. So from within the heart, with the torch of transcendental knowledge, the Lord gives intelligence by purifying the heart from all ignorance with the torch of knowledge. That in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that, yes, that So, but if a devotee does not take advantage of their literature, of his spiritual master, if he's sincere in his devotional service, that's a condition. Sincere wanting to please his spiritual master, wanting to please Krishna. That then is helped by Krishna himself within his heart. So that's what sincere in his devotional service is important. Sincerity and purity in devotional service. That wanting to be pure, wanting to act purely. Acting purely means, yes, for the service of the Lord. The Lord is in the center, not us. So the sincere devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness cannot be without knowledge, Srila Prabhupada. The only qualification is that one carries out devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Which is not easy, that full Krishna consciousness. That, to act in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness must be purified. That and it is encouraging. The Lord says that, well, Srila Prabhupada in the purport of 10:11 of the Bhagavad Gita says, even though they be without sufficient education and even without sufficient knowledge of Vedic principles, they are still helped by the Supreme Lord. That yes. So it means, what does it mean? That one attains firm transcendental intelligence. That means his intelligence, his consciousness becomes fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. That if one is not Krishna conscious, if one's intelligence is not fixed on the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, then one becomes entangled in a material energy. It's one or the other. If one's intelligence is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord, one becomes purified and gets intelligence, and if not, one becomes entangled in the material world, karmic reactions, so many things. And what's the best service? Good question. What is the best service? The best service is undoubtedly to preach the glories of the Lord. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. Says, Man mana bhavma bhakto machimam namaskuru, mam vesha satyate pachana piyon chime. Always think of me and become my devotee, worship me, offer me respect. In that way you will undoubtedly come to me. Sarvdam pacham mam kam saram vajam tvam sarvapabhya makshiyasi machucha. Just surrender to me. Do not worry. I will take care of all your sinful reactions. But then his main instructions are not finished. Then he says that this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere, not engaged in devotion service, none one is envious of me. For one who explains the supreme secret to devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. That's the best service. And at the end, he will come back to me. And there is no servant in this world more dear than me, than he, nor will that ever be one more dear. So it's no doubt that's the best service. That's what Krishna says, to preach the glories of the Lord. Then, because speaking of the Lord, you can't speak of the Lord without thinking of the Lord. So this is how one fixes in his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then what happens? One becomes purified, and then one continues to fix one's mind on the Supreme Lord. Then after leaving the body, one becomes an associate of the Lord. We may need a few lifetimes to come to that, but it's progressive. The more we know about Krishna, the more we become free from material nature. So we need to purify ourselves external and internal. That's being in this world for a long time, this material universe, our heart is full of baggage. And therefore, a yogi, Bhagavad Gita says, needs to purify himself. Bhagavad Gita 5:11, Kayena manasa buddhya kevaler indiyarapi, yogina karma kovanti sangha chakmatma sudaye. The yogis abandoning attachment, activity, act with body, mind, and intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. How does the yogi do that? First, niyam, yam, following rules and regulations, and then ashan. Asana postures to bring soul and body in harmony. And then pranayam, breathing exercises. Breathing exercises was the purpose of this. Breathing exercises, kumbhaka, is to come to a balance of outgoing and ingoing airs and stop the breathing. Stop it. And then one withdraws the senses from the objects of the senses. Pratyaharam. And then Shaldi one comes to the point of meditation. The process of meditating on the Lord in the heart begins. So is there anyone who can do that, going through all these things? No. The scriptures say for Kali Yuga, there's no other way than Hari Nama Iva Kevalam, Kala Nashteva Gatiram Yata. It says 3 times Nasteva. Means, as Acharya says, means it cannot be done by karma, it cannot be done by jnana, it cannot be done by yoga in Kali Yuga. No. Not any other of these processes will bring us to meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord in Kali Yuga. And the recommended process is the chanting of the holy names, direct meditation on Krishna. Because that's an important point we hear here. Narada, he did not see the Lord. He did hear the Lord. The Lord was in sound. That it was no different from the Lord, that sound. So the Hare Krishna mantra is also not different from the Lord. So it's a very simple way to become situated on the transcendental platform. This performing devotional service, and you get this transcendental intelligence. Simply just dance, chant, enjoy. It's very easy, a very easy way to get the highest benefit. What is the highest benefit is also described in these verses. It's to become an associate of the Lord. An associate in 5 relationships. Santa, neutrality. Neutrality, Das, servitorship. Sakya is friendship. Vatsalya, parental love. Madhurya, conjugal love. So an associate of the Lord in one of these rasas. Someone may say, I want to serve the Lord in that rasa, of that. I want to be a gopi, or I want to be cowboy. But that's contrary to the principles of pure devotion. That a pure devotee, he doesn't care about this. Whatever Krishna wants us to be, that we will be. How he wants me to serve, that I will be. That is the mood of complete surrender. That's Aslishya padamratam pinastuma madakshna marma hatam karutiva. Yatatata vidadata lampato mat prananatastusa evanapara. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. That's Lord Chaitanya expressing the mood of Srimad Radharani, of complete surrender. Whatever he does with me, it's fine. So that is the mood of pure devotion. But fixing one's mind, fixing one's mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Meditation. This manmana, this thinking of the Lord, is purifying the subtle body. And Krishna says here, he gives firm intelligence. Firm intelligence means it's intelligence fixed on the prayojan, the goal. It's not going to deviate from that. And the practice of devotional service was instructed by the spiritual master, was instructed by Sri Rupa Goswami's 64 items of devotional service. He will not deviate from that. Because what's the problem? It's not the gross body. The gross body is built upon the subtle body. This form that we have is there in subtle form. That subtle form, the subtle body, that we know that the subtle body is in place by 5 Rs. 5 Rs, they have a name, I forget. Apana and 5 Rs. But these Rs are not like the air we have here in the room or whatever. It's not just one of these 5 elements. Punya, Apanala, Fire, Kam, Fire. Air is one of the 5. No, it's much more subtle, very subtle. That kind, of course, in the laboratory, they can make oxygen, that air, that can produce it. Some oxygen, but it's not. This is a gross form. Air is subtle forms. That and the subtle form of air is so subtle they cannot even see it with material instruments today. That so these subtle airs, they are keeping the soul in place in the body, the subtle body, and will move it under the direction of the super soul to another body. But it's very, very subtle. But this subtle body is contaminated by lust, greed. If you are lusty, greedy, it's in the subtle body. That's the problem. And what is Krishna consciousness? Krishna consciousness is transforming the subtle body into spiritual quality. So if you have manmana, we think of Krishna, our mind will become purified. Because the scientists, they think, the thinking, feeling, willing is a function of the brain. That's like we are a machine. But why in the brain certain thinking come up? Why? What's the cause of that? What does that happen? That comes from the subtle platform. They still have to discover that if we think something, there's a connection with the gross and the subtle. There's a connection in the brain, a synapse. But the cause of that connection, they can't grasp. Because everything is directed by the super soul from within the heart. And the super soul directs it according to your karma. And and the gross body must act in such a way as instructed from the subtle platform. The subtle platform, gross subtle platform, everything is under control of the super soul. And therefore, at a certain time, you get a disease and so on. But you can try to cure it. But finally, that comes all from the subtle platform. But if we we are transforming the subtle body into spiritual quality just by thinking of Krishna. Most powerful. And we can purify the intelligence by hearing transcendental knowledge, but also by performing devotional service. That's the real cause. Because it will give you realization from within the heart that but in order to that this purification should happen, we must have the mood of a devotee. And that mood is total surrender, like described in this 8th verse of the Shikshastakam. And if one has that mood, that is from a lecture of Bhakti Charanaj on this verse, who says, yeah, that if one has that mood of full surrender, then one becomes pure and free from material nature. So the point is, free from material nature means that we don't desire sense gratification anymore. The sense gratification is Maya's trick. But what is our real enjoyment? Our real enjoyment is devotional service. We have the 5 most potent items of devotional service. Hearing about Krishna, hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many transcendental literatures, the Goswamis and so on. Performing deity worship, that associating with devotees, chanting the holy name, that staying in a holy place, turn your house into a temple by worshipping the Lord, then you are in a holy place. And then you will attain this firm intelligence. Firm intelligence means we remain focused on the goal of life. And we will not be distracted by this deplorable world. That our desire is Krishna. And we want to go back to Godhead. So I will also read the next verse, the last verse, Krishna speaking. Text 24. Mater mai nibateyam nani vapyeta karichit vacha saryani rodepi shmitishamat anugrahat. Intelligence engaged in my devotion cannot be thwarted at any time. Even at the time of creation as well as at the time of annihilation, your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Perfect. Devotional service rendered to the personality of God, it never goes in vain. Since the personality of God is eternal, intelligence applied in his service to anything done in his relation is permanent. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that such transcendental service rendered unto the personality of Godhead accumulates birth after birth, and when the devotee is fully matured, the total service counted together makes him eligible to enter into the association of the personality of Godhead. Such accumulation of God's service is never vanquished, but increases till fully matured. So, this is important to understand. Krishna consciousness is a process we go through. A process with stages which have been analyzed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Madhurya Kanambini. And it's going on birth after birth. Some of us maybe may have already some births in devotional service. It's maybe not the first one. But but it matures. So we have to become nearly completely pure. Finally, we have to become 100% pure to go back to the spiritual world. But if we are nearly pure in this lifetime, then in the next lifetime, we take birth in a universe where Krishna has his eternal pastimes. And we will be trained up there by the Nitya Siddha devotees of the Lord, eternal associates, and become 100% pure. Because to enter the spiritual world, we have to be 100% pure. Because if we have still a tinge of desire for sense gratification, that's a problem, because there is no sense gratification in the spiritual world. But in Bhagavad Gita, that 10:9, the verse Machita Machata Prana Bodhayantas Praspam Katyantas Nityam Nitya Yukta. Yeah. Machita Machata Prana Bodhayantas Praspam Katyantas Nityam Nitya Yukta. I forgot the last line. Machita Machata Prana Bodhayantas Praspam Katyantas Nityam. That let's see here why I don't remember it. Said it so many times. Dushanti Sharamanticham. Yeah, that's the last. Katyan Samamnityam Dushanti Sharamanticham. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. In the Bprs, Srila Prabhupada writes that in the beginning stage, that one must relish or the transcendental pleasure from the service itself. And in the mature states, one is actually situated in love for God. So the service itself is the means and the goal. It's non-different. When a devotee is pure, he feels just ecstatic by doing devotional service. That's the pleasure to serve. It's completely selfless. It's in an elevated state. Then also in this verse you have remembrance will continue by my mercy. By his mercy. Narada Muni got a transcendental body. And as a pastime, he came out of the mind of Brahma in his transcendental body. He was not created by Brahma. Brahma cannot create transcendental bodies. He appeared from the heart of Brahma when he was meditation on devotion to the Lord. That way, as a pastime, he became the son of Brahma. But he remembered his previous life, which was a previous day of Brahma, long time ago, but by the mercy of the Lord. You see also in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, we have the story of Bharat Maharaj, who becomes a deer, and then Jad Bharat. He remembered also by the mercy of the Lord his previous lives. That is because his spiritual body became activated. So yes, it's cannot be twaarted dat anytime. Means eternal. That we get back our eternal intelligence, because that's our normal intelligence. Our intelligence is used for exploitation of this world. But we have to use our intelligence in the service of the Lord. And the best service is preaching. And the best use of intelligence is planning preaching, using it for your preaching. That's the best service of intelligence. It gives the highest benefit. Of course, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj said to Srila Prabhupada, you make it in this lifetime. Well, to all his disciples, make it in this lifetime. Don't take another birth again. So yes, it requires this intelligence. That if one has this intelligence and the intelligence to fix the mind constantly on Krishna and engage body, mind, and words in devotional service, engage in his preaching mission, then we may become quickly purified. That's the shortcut. And that's the best way. Srila Prabhupada speaks also about that. Ghostanandi and Bhajananda. Bhajanandi is someone who practices the 64 items of devotional service strictly and engage in so many services, but it does not travel and preach. Sometimes preaches, but yeah. But the Ghostanandi is completely fixed on preaching the glories of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada created this ISKCON as a means to practice this Ghostanandi mood. Bhajananda means bliss. One gets bliss just from the practice of devotional services. Ghostananda gets bliss from spreading Krishna consciousness. And it's another level that it's, if we are 100% engaged in the mission of Srila Prabhupada, we are Ghostanandis. Even if you are in the kitchen cooking, you are still, because we are a preacher movement, we are connected to the preaching. And that makes us advance in devotional service very quickly. So then the Lord starts speaking. And we will hear next week what Narada did in his previous life after that. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions, please? Thank you very much. I look forward to see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Hare